Welcome to the show. For today, we have from Palm Beach Symphony, Lucas Sanchez. He's a timpanist, a percussionist, and an educator. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you for coming and tell us a little bit about your story, who you are, and we're so happy to see Latinos in the symphony. I mean, you have a Latino background, Mexican American, that's what, right?
Close. Yeah, I'm actually from New Mexico in the United
New
States.
Mexico, okay.
Yeah, but my last name is Sanchez because my dad's family has lived there since before it was the United States. So
Wow. Okay, so you have a Latino from the like maybe fifth generation, sixth generation, who knows, right?
exactly. Yep.
It's incredible. Okay, so tell us a little bit how you started in
Yeah,
classical music. You started when you were a little kid?
I did, and I got a later start than I think most people did. I
Okay.
didn't start until I was in sixth grade, and actually, my parents love this story. I didn't like playing music at first, and I have a little brother who played piano at first, and he was always practicing, and I
Uh,
was just kind of like not about that. I played video games a lot.
oh, wow. Sixth grade,
But
that will be, sixth grade is
12 years old?
12 years old. Well, that's
Yeah,
not
this year.
bad. That's not,
No, yeah, but my little brother, he played piano, and I remember we were playing in the park one time before his piano lesson,
uh-huh,
and we had one of those things that you hang on to with like a zip line, and you go
uh-huh.
down, and you can go really fast. He said, "Lucas, push me as hard as you can." So I did, and he had so much momentum at the very end, he fell off and broke his arm. So I had never broken a bone in my body, but I broke his arm, and since we had already paid for all of his piano lessons that month, guess who got them?
You did.
I
Oh
did as my
my
punishment. Yep.
God. So it was like a coincidence, something
It
that this
was.
happened in your life and you said, okay, I have to do this.
Exactly. Yeah. So I really enjoyed the piano lessons, and then I went and started band next year, and I got sorted into the drummers part. So now I get to hit things and make music that way.
So how is to do classical music when you were 13, 14 years old? There was a lot of kids in your school that were doing it because sometimes when you're a teenager, you just want to do rock, the class, not the classical music, but the electric guitar, something that looks cool. So
Yeah.
how did it go as a teenager?
It went okay. Actually, it was interesting because I was really lucky to get awesome instruction from not only my directors at school, my band directors. So I was in concert band playing, these classical instruments with that sort of music. And then I got into jazz band. I got a private teacher who was in the symphony at in New Mexico. And I
Okay.
would go and see him play, and I would take a lesson from him, and he would show me the music that he was playing that week and next week. And I just really started falling in love with classical music. Um,
You found your calling. You felt like, oh, I like this. This is interesting. It was something that people, because sometimes when you're a little kid, your parents will make you do things that, learn Chinese, for example,
yeah,
because it's going to be good for you. I don't want to learn Chinese or French or whatever, or I don't want to take violin lessons, cello lessons, but for you, it was like, no, this is my calling. I want more of this, right?
yeah, exactly. And so I joined the symphony, which wasn't part of my school, but was part of the whole city. They would bring the best students from each school together once a week to play in the youth symphony. And so I think one of my favorite memories was that this youth symphony got enough funds to go to Australia and New Zealand
Oh.
during high school, and I got to go out there and play in the Sydney Opera House. It was just so much fun, an
Wow.
incredible experience.
That's iconic, that Plaza
Yeah.
House. Yes.
Mhm.
Tell us a little bit about already you went to college, right? You started, okay, this is what I'm going to do as a career. How did it click? Because sometimes when you're a teenager, and I know we've been interviewing the different musicians from the Palm Beach Symphony, and they're doing educational videos. You can learn virtually. You can go on YouTube and learn with them the cello, the violin, the bass. And it's interesting, but when you're a little kid, sometimes you have to find, and that's what you're trying to do with these videos. They're free, they're there, and if you want to keep going, of course, they have private lessons, etc. But when did you decide, okay, this is going to be something that I want to do as making money as a career?
Yeah, I think. one of the biggest and earliest turning points was for me was in high school. That same orchestra that went to Australia also went to Chicago the next year. And while we were there in Chicago, we got to see the Chicago Symphony play one of my favorite pieces by Gustav Holst, The Planets. It's got so many percussion instruments in the back. In fact, so you see the 4 drums I have around me.
Exactly.
There are 2 of us in the orchestra during that piece. So there are 8 drums altogether, along with another 4 or 5 drummers back there having a blast. And I remember sitting in that hall, feeling the music wash over me and seeing people that I had only read about, you know, the percussionists, the drummers in the orchestra, and just seeing how much fun they were having. And I decided, that's what I want to do. I want to make amazing music at such a high level for the rest of my life.
Exactly. Wow. I think that's so important to find role models and people that you can relate. That's why I think it's so important that we also have Latinos with the Latino last names, with the face. I think it's very important for the little kids to see there's somebody that looks like me, that has a last name that is like, maybe for you in that moment, it was not a big deal. For example, you didn't even think about it. But there are some kids, they want to see somebody that looks like them. And that's why it's so important also to have role models. Who do you follow right now? Who is your influence right now? I know you're already developed. You're already being an influence to somebody else, but I bet you, what kind of music you follow right now?
Ooh, that's a big question because I follow everything I can get my hands on. Actually, I really have been looking into a lot of like progressive rock and like jazz fusion stuff recently. So I haven't gotten to see them yet live, but I know that they come down to my room once in a while. Bands like Snarky Puppy and Dirty Loops, even things like pentatonics, you know, like vocal music, like quintets and stuff. I've just been listening to everything that I can get my hands on because I find that no matter what the genre is, you can incorporate some part of it in your playing as long as you're open-minded.
And you went for classical music. Do you have like a point, oh, I want to go for the popular stuff? Did you have a point in there, or you still struggling through that? Because there's some artists that they start doing classical and they go back to popular, and they can go back to classical, but do you feel like you want to stay there, or what is your...
I think I want to always be open to everything. Actually, when I was in high school, I also was in the jazz band. And so I got experience playing drum set, not only drum set and playing in the jazz style, but also on vibraphone. And so actually, I played a gig at Vizcaya recently where they put us outside in Vizcaya, the gardens.
Oh,
and
how cool.
I just got to play vibraphone by myself, playing some jazz tunes. I'm very fortunate to play in a number of orchestras in the Miami area. One of those is called the New Deco Ensemble, and they take pop songs and rearrange them. So we've done stuff with PJ Morton, and who's the keyboardist for Maroon 5. And so I feel like if I cut myself off from any genre, then I'm just limiting the possibilities I can possibly have.
Oh, okay. Wow, yeah, I never thought about that. It's like you are grabbing things from everywhere. You're like still like a sponge, even though you're doing classical right now, but there's some things that you can apply. That's what you're saying, right?
Exactly. I think it's really important to be a lifelong learner, no matter what you're studying or what you're doing with your life. If you ever stop learning, then you're just limiting yourself and you're not growing in any way. So I always try to be like a sponge, like you said.
Exactly. And you travel all over the world with your music. I mean, and you see, there's a place in particular you said, wow, this is a culture that I'm like amazed. Have you find something like that in the world, in your travels?
I recently got the privilege to go, and I always take auditions everywhere, and so I end up traveling and trying to understand different cultures and all that as I go. I visited Puerto Rico actually a year ago now. Actually, it's been 2 years. Wow, time travels.
It's incredible.
I remember I took the audition for the orchestra in Puerto Rico, but that night I just walked around Old San Juan and found a conga ensemble that was just playing in the square, and it was so cool to see how they all just knew what to do and how open the culture was. I feel like that's one of the things we don't necessarily get all the time with classical music is, anyone could go up, just wait your turn and go and play the conga, and they'll show you how to do it. And everyone's just there playing, dancing, having a great time. And so that's one of the my best memories so far from my travels.
Wow, Puerto Rico. In the Latino culture, I mean, your instruments are used all the time in the Latino
Exactly.
culture. It's incredible how rich it is. And what about Africa? Places like, you know, in that you can hear that music, the drums and all that. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's such a community part. I feel like at least when I was growing up a little bit, people were told, if you can't sing, just sing really quietly, or don't join it at all. No, that's not the way at all in Africa. Everyone is encouraged to participate and to sing, and everyone just knows that that's what's expected. I'm really fortunate that I've had teachers that have studied
Exactly.
in Africa bring the music back with them to America, and I've gotten to study with them. So studying some of the ancient Mbira and marimba arts
Mhm.
from Africa and playing some of those parts. So I'm really thankful for those experiences.
And I was thinking when they told me that there was a percussionist, I have to tell you that I was a little surprised, just a tiny bit, because when they tell me Palm Beach Symphony, I'm just thinking, the cello, the violin, the
Right.
bass, maybe, the trombonist.
Hmm.
But when they told me percussionist, I just see you like in a salsa band or something. So
Yeah.
tell me a little
No.
bit about that.
Yeah. So actually, I'm the timpanist of the orchestra. So I
Uh-huh.
play these big kettle drums,
Uh-huh.
which are so much fun. And this is actually my house where I have them. In
That's
fact, this big
awesome.
guy
That's
doesn't fit through the front door normally. You have to put him on his side. Each of these
yes.
weighs 150 pounds.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I have a truck and a trailer that I bring them around town in. I am actually, as the timpanist, Beethoven
Okay.
wrote for timpani, Mozart wrote for timpani, Bach
Okay,
wrote for
got you.
timpani. So
Okay,
I
got you.
play most concerts with the orchestra where they need a percussionist. It wasn't until later that composers really started writing for other percussionists besides Sarah
Uh-huh.
here. I've got
Uh-huh.
a xylophone back here. So oftentimes I'm the only one in the back that's hitting their instrument, being a percussionist. And I think that's really cool because these are a very special instrument to me.
Exactly. And you see how, as a Latina, that's what happened because of my view of the world in that moment when I saw percussionist, it was salsa merengue. And now I can see that you can use it every different genders, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So tell us a little bit about the future of Palm Beach Symphony. What's going on? I know they're doing the online videos. Tell me a little bit about what you're doing online.
Yeah, I don't know too much about the Symphony's plans, but I'm really thankful that they've asked me to do the videos. We've been doing these interviews and these sorts of collaborative things with different people all around. I'm hoping for some more recording things. In fact, you're hearing me right now. I don't know if you can see, I've got these two microphones. All of the electronic equipment is completely new for me. I went ahead and decided to put all this together. So I've been working and still teaching um, virtually as much as I can. And so this is like my recording space, and I love teaching in here because I've got the nice microphones and my students can see me clearly. And it's been really great to kind of evolve my teaching studio in the short term. So I've been reaching out with that. I've been teaching not just percussion
Uh-huh.
and drums and stuff, but I've also been teaching like music theory, music history, and recording technology. Taking what I learned from earlier this year about putting together a recording rig and sharing it with other people so that they can make their own tracks. So I've actually recorded a piece this week. I got inspired, and as you know, inspiration hits, and you work for 8 hours straight. So I recorded one recently, just electronic sounds, just trying to get used to
Exactly.
creating something new.
Exactly. And how many hours pretty much? I know that if you're a professional musician, you usually spend interesting amount of hours with your instruments. What about you? How many hours with your instruments?
Yeah, in a perfect world, I would try and get about 4 hours every day in.
Wow.
Um, but it doesn't end up coming out to that. I really take to heart the idea that you should be doing deliberate practice.
Uh-huh.
I actually just finished a seminar with one of my good friends, Jason Hallheim. He has this deliberate practice method where he says, not only, you've probably heard it, it's not about practicing a lot, it's about practicing perfectly,
Mm.
right? And so I actually spent a lot more time thinking about what I'm going to do and how I'm going to do it, as opposed to actually sitting at the drums doing it. So I've got
Exactly.
my spreadsheets, and I make sure that I check all the boxes as I go down. That really appeals to the math and the nerdy part of me.
Is that,
is arranging my sessions. Mhm.
and you play like a specific I mean, you play in a specific piece. Okay, I have to practice this, or it's a bunch of little. Tell me a little bit about the journey when you're practicing.
Yeah, exactly. So I will take something that I'm preparing for the symphony or something that I'm
Okay.
preparing for an audition or maybe that I'm working on just there. And what I'll do is I'll record myself first, um, and I'll say, okay, does that sound like it sounds like in my head? And go back and
Wow.
say, okay, this doesn't feel quite right, that doesn't feel quite right. And I can take those two things and I can make other things out of them, other exercises. So maybe I'm working on trying to keep my hands perfectly even, and I hear that, so then I'll create an exercise that is not close to the music, but is enough for me to, build a technique as opposed to trying to build the music and trying to build myself up so that I have not just the tools, but more tools than I strictly need to make the music happen.
Exactly. Interesting. Tell me a little bit about the kids. I mean, what is the age range that you have right now? And what is the feedback that you're getting from the videos?
Yeah, I teach mostly high schoolers right now.
Okay.
But I remember before COVID hit, I ended up teaching like a lot of middle schoolers as well and going around to different schools and taking classes at a time and taking them out in group lessons. Right now I'm teaching 2 high school students and a college student, one who is preparing for auditions this spring to go into college. She's a senior and she's doing awesome. I have another adult student who is doing a lot of great work on snare drum and keyboard stuff right now. It's interesting because percussion is such a wide variety of instruments that no matter what you want to learn, if it's drum set, timpani, snare drum, xylophone, you want to make all state, you want to play in your salsa band, like I love that I get to tailor it to each individual student. So actually my third student that I have is a sophomore, and I'm teaching her I'm tutoring her in music theory and music history with a dose of music technology because she wants to make different songs, arrangements of particular pieces that she really likes and put them on percussion instruments so that she can play them at her school with her friends.
Wow.
So yeah, I mostly teach high schoolers and college students, but I have taught middle schoolers in the past.
And there's a age limit. The truth, please tell us. Because some people, no, you can learn at any age. Well, there has to be a time if you want to be a professional or if you want to do it as a hobby. Tell us the truth.
The truth is that as long as you're willing to be a sponge, like I said, be a lifelong learner, you can absolutely learn it. And especially because drums, they're such a a physical thing to do. I feel like it's more of a workout for some people than anything else. And so if you just understand that, okay, I have to move this one twice as fast, it's a really great release of energy, and it doesn't require, it does require some of the finer movements that maybe some other instruments do, but not at first to get the fun sounds. I compare it to piano. Anyone can sit down at piano and figure out the basics of how it works, right? You spend enough time there. Same thing with drums. You just have to hit the thing in the right way and have a basic sense of rhythm. And there's no age limit. In the past, I've taught up to 40, 45, 50-year-olds, and we have no issues. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Okay, so if somebody's retiring, they're in the 70s, 65. Oh, I want to take an instrument. You recommend? Yes, Grandpa, you can do it.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Okay, so I wanted to ask you, just to finish, what is the that you think about the art in the schools, in education? I know that we want to keep, the art and the music in the schools, but we see that there's a lack sometimes. What do you think about what's going on in education, combining with music and art?
Yeah, I think 2 major things. The first is that think about all of the things that we've done in the past 5 months to try and make the time go faster. I know that I've been watching a lot more Netflix. I've been enjoying a lot of operas from the Metropolitan Opera, other film and television, and each of those products that we consume, whatever it is, involves artists of all kinds: musicians, artists, filmographers, photographers, recording engineers, all of this stuff. And so I'd encourage, all the schools to understand that without training all of these different kinds of artists, we don't have these amazing series on Netflix, on YouTube, in film. So yes. I think the quarantine has really showed me, at least, that my work is important and it's needed. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I've already forgotten it.
It's okay.
Goodness, yeah, it just passed my mind.
You were so passionate.
I was, there it goes.
Yeah, you were passionate about my work is important, and we need art in the schools. We need music. Maybe we are taking it lightly, or it's just for fun, but it could be
Right.
something in there. What do you think?
Exactly. I remember the point a little bit, and
Okay.
it ties in exactly to what you said, is that a lot of times the art class in school, whether that's music, whether that's an arts program, it could be orchestra, it could be choir, that's a lot of kids' opportunity during the day to just relax and do the thing that they love. As much as I love my other subjects, I actually also have a mathematics degree as well, and
Oh
I
wow.
love math, and I love using technology and all that. But it's for a lot of students, their band class, their music class is their safe space. It is their opportunity to relax during the day and just have a great time. And that's one of the big reasons why they go to school, is to go for that band class.
Wow.
So I really encourage schools and educators to keep those classes, because they offer something that no one else can give them,
Exactly.
during that school day.
Exactly. And some kids, they only have that. They have some kids, they go from 7 a.m. in the morning until 6 p.m. They stay in school, and they find it's like a shelter for them, the school. And for them, sometimes, and I'm talking about people who are going through domestic violence and going to stuff at the house, when they find art, they can channel so many things in there that is important, that we can connect with art and music, and to find something also that is, fun and maybe a career.
Exactly. Yep. And I think one of my teaching philosophies is that I don't try to make musicians out of everyone. I don't think that's my
Exactly.
goal as a teacher. I think my goal as a teacher is to always teach students the tools and the skills that they need to be successful in life, whether they go on to be a doctor, an engineer, a healthcare worker, whatever it is that you want to do. I want to make sure that the lessons that you learn here, being organized, working hard as an individual, working great as a team, all those different skills, that you have them by the time you leave me, whether you decide to go into music or not. It's never offends me when students tell me, oh, Lucas, I just don't want to go into music. I said, that's great. Let's work on some of those skills that will help you with whatever your passion is.
Exactly. I play the guitar. I started when I was like 15. I'm not a professional, but every now and then I go to a party, or I have a party in my house. I grab the guitar and just play just for fun. And, you know, and my friends, they also, like, they will find a guitar for me. Like when you're in a party and you're just having fun, and suddenly you see a guitar coming from, hey, Daisy, here for you. And I'm like, what? Am I playing? Okay. Just for fun. It's not
Yeah.
like I'm like a superhero of the moment, in that moment. So
Exactly.
it's just for fun sometimes. And it's a way to be creative, just be fun and connect, because music and art connects with your emotions, connects with who we are as a humanity. So I think it's beautiful what you're doing with the Palm Beach Symphony, creating these videos, because it keeps the youth interested in something that is not only the things in the radio or Netflix, which is fine. It's part of, it's good. Everything is good, but we need also stuff like this. So now you're going to show us a little bit of what you can do with the instruments.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me change my settings real quick so that
Okay.
I don't overwhelm everything. I'm trying out Zoom's new high fidelity audio that just came
Oh
out.
yes, I noticed a little bit, by the way, when you press when you were pressing, that it changed the volume.
Exactly. So I'm actually going to turn it down because this piece gets kind of loud. So this piece I'm going to play is actually by my teacher here at University of Miami.
Okay.
His name is Matthew Strauss, and this is Variations on a Theme by Mozart. I'll just play about half of it.
Okay, perfect. I'm ready.
Give me a second to tune.
You took over the room and the Zoom and everything. You took over with that. That was amazing. Thank you so much.